Liverpool have beaten Everton in the Merseyside derby after 10 years of comfortable wins and comfortable draws and being involved in the Merseyside derby. This might be the first time in that time where, as a Liverpool fan, maybe you are nervous just before the game, but it was a very comfortable victory for you too. And I say you too because I am joined either side of me by two Liverpool fans, Liverpool experts, people that can speak about it a lot more in depth than I can. Cal, obviously from the Cal and Dom podcast. How are we doing, Cal?
Not so bad, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very well. Yeah, well, not as good as you two, to be fair. And also on my own channel for the first time personally, and on the Cal and Dom Talks Nonsense podcast, as well as your own, Pete. This will go on yours as well. How are you doing, mate?
I'm really well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really happy.
And obviously, we will talk about the game in full, but I will speak about the game before the game, if that makes sense. So, obviously, I spoke about how you might have been nervous before it, leading up to it. No goals in 3 games, Pete. How are you feeling just before it?
So just before the game, I was thinking this could be really, really close, really tense. Yesterday, I was doing a quick live on TikTok, and people asking me a lot about what I thought the score would be, and I was being honest and saying I think it'd be 0-0. This morning, I felt a little bit more just like something might happen, and I put a prediction up on my socials just to sort of say I think 0-0 half time, 1-0 full time Liverpool. So actually, my expectations were far surpassed, but I was really nervous going into the game.
Yeah, and I think you might say the same sort of thing, Cal. Just before the game, obviously, you went to a local place, and you were involved with a lot of Everton fans. Were they confident?
Yeah, more than ever. I think that made things personally for me. I don't know about you, Pete, seeing them in the week or talking to old friends in the week. I think it made it a lot easier for me because I sort of felt like one of them for once, where it was like everybody expected us to get the hammer in more than them. And so I've had it all week, and then got into the local, got settled down, ready to go. And then you see them and they give you the looks and they're looking at you and they're thinking, you're having it tonight. But one thing I have said through the week that it proven true tonight, but obviously it was more hope talking than anything else, was I've just got this thing with Liverpool where I feel like when our backs are against the walls and it couldn't be worse, that's when we get the reaction that we need that might kickstart something. Obviously, it was earlier this season, so it didn't kickstart much. But the Man City game, I always go back to it, and I think we had a video on it, Dom, where I was really passionate about the TalkSport presenters that were going on about it could be 6-0, this, it could be 7-0.
Yeah.
The Man City Liverpool game earlier in the season when we hadn't kicked on and they were doing okay. And then we go and beat them 1-0. It always seems to be when it couldn't be worse, that's when it kickstarts. And that's how it felt tonight. And, to watch Liverpool play like Liverpool again was just, and then watching the Evertonians' faces as we did so, it's like, we weren't expecting this. So, yeah, absolutely delighted with the performance. Was really nervous going into it, but made up with how it finished, definitely.
Obviously, you two are Liverpool fans, so I'll go on the side of Everton tonight. Obviously, we lost the game, and well, to be fair, losing Calvert-Lewin just before the game wasn't great. Putting Ellis Sims in there seemed naive in itself, but one win against Arsenal changes the perspective of anything, to be fair. Under Sean Dyche, obviously, I have some sort of, as a Rovers fan...
You're not an Everton fan, are you? You're a Blackburn fan. That's what you are.
As a Rovers fan, seeing a Burnley manager, be so applauded as an Everton manager, I don't like the club, obviously, but I love Sean Dyche, and I think most people do. And I think even that one result against Arsenal flipped the switch completely in this Everton derby. But tonight, obviously, like you said, it didn't go well for him. But we'll speak about the sides just now. Obviously, Jordan Pickford in goal for Everton. Seamus Coleman, Connor Cody, James Tarkowski, even Mikalenko, Iwobi, Anana, Guy, Decore, McNeil, and then Alisson, Andrew Robertson, Gomez, Matip, Trent Alexander-Arnold, How do you say that word?
It's Stefan
Bajcetic.
Bajcetic.
Thank you, guys. Fabinho, Henderson, Gakpo, Darwin Núñez, and Salah. So, Pete, what was your thoughts on this starting lineup?
Well, I think, to be honest, you look at that and kind of thought, apart from Thiago, that's probably as strong as we were going to go today. And I wasn't really sure what the Thiago situation was. What I do find more interesting is of going where I became more confident, and I said earlier that I felt a bit more confident before kickoff. Look at the bench; that's the strongest Liverpool bench that we've seen in a very long time. I said this in the game I was watching. If you're playing for Liverpool now, you look at the bench and go, well, Van Dijk's back next week, so which means someone's losing their place after today. Diogo Jota, if he'd come on half an hour to go, scores a goal, he probably starts against Newcastle. And again, someone else is dropped. So all of a sudden, you kind of go, I've got to play. I've got to perform tonight. So when I looked at that team, I thought, I'm glad Henderson started, and I really was glad that he was back. Back four picked itself and everything, and the front three as well. But yeah, I was confident that at least there was that sort of fear of what if I don't play well? Like they got that kind of kick on the backside that they sort of needed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, like you say, personally, without Thiago, he seems slightly at a disadvantage in Liverpool sense. But that subs bench, it just breeds confidence throughout the team, and you could see it. Cal, obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin will speak out Everton to you a tiny bit. I'm sorry, but without him, does that give you confidence that he wasn't starting?
Listen, he's scored goals, hasn't he? I can't be too biased against him, but he has scored goals, and obviously having him not in the team, you see Ellis Sims lining up for Everton. But what I did think about Sims in the game, to be fair to him, I didn't think he did too much on the ball, but you look at the physical attributes of it. He's got a good young player there. He's got speed, he's got power. There's a lot of things to work on, of course, and nothing that I'll be interested in his development. But I did look at him and think he has got something about him, and so they had a presence up front. Obviously, not the same as Calvert-Lewin. He's a proven goal scorer in this league, so obviously it's a disadvantage. But the way that the game played out, I genuinely don't think that even if Calvert-Lewin was in the team, he might have got lucky on a couple of the half chances that he had, and then the one big one before our first goal. If that had fell to Calvert-Lewin, it might have gone in, but I don't think it would have affected the game too much. But I think maybe for confidence for the individuals in the team, knowing that he's the big man up front, then maybe it would have helped them, and obviously a disadvantage not having him. But I wouldn't like to go too much criticising Ellis Sims, because I did see things today where I thought, he's got a bit about him, this kid. He could do something. So I was impressed by him. I thought he did all right, and wasn't too effective in the game, but physically looked a real player.
Yeah, and absolutely, I think he looked slightly naive in his play on the ball, but yeah, obviously off it. I think he did use his physical attributes like the height and stuff instead of more pay being on. I think that's probably what they were going for. Pete, obviously, with the just before we go into the game itself, do you think that the likelihood of Henderson and Fabinho being involved instead of another centre midfielder perhaps was a direct contrast to how Everton were in midfield against Arsenal, because they were so alive, weren't they, in that game? I think that obviously Everton were very mobile in the Arsenal game. Do you think that Liverpool tried to counteract it, or do you think they tried to just focus themselves on their own game?
I think I sort of touched on earlier. I think that Liverpool's lineup almost chooses itself at the moment with the injury. So I don't think Bajcetic has been playing really well, and so full merited to be in the starting lineup. I was really happy that Henderson was in the team today, and it's not because of the physical attributes. When he doesn't play, if it's Thiago or whoever it is, we haven't got anyone who's loud. There's no voice, no vocal point, no kind of management of players and positions. You're basically looking at Andy Robertson as probably the only leader, possibly Alisson in goal. Everyone else is sort of quiet. English isn't their first language, etc. Things like that. I'm really, really glad that Henderson's able to sit in there and just kind of boss about people. So yeah, I was pretty happy, as I said earlier, with the midfield three. Fabinho's been a little bit. He's had periods of the season where he hasn't really performed particularly well. But I look at those three and go, that's a proper midfield three. That's Bajcetic literally, I don't know if you felt the same, Cal. Bajcetic played like Wijnaldum used to play.
Yeah.
He was just everywhere. And what he does is he starts from a standing, he starts a little bit off the player and he comes towards the ball. So he pushes the ball forwards when he comes towards it. This might be complex to think. Rather than what Harvey Elliott does, which is kind of turn and wait for possession, people to pass to him. Bajcetic wants to go and get the ball and take it off people and pass it forward. So he always seems to be running forwards. I think he's tonight, honestly, I think he was absolutely world class. I genuinely, hand on heart, he was the best player on the pitch by miles. So yeah, really happy with midfield three before the game and thought they played really well.
I completely agree, Pete. And going back on Bajcetic, I think the thing that excites me so much about a young player that's come through, come into the first team, what I love so much about him is you get attributes of for me, I've said to people that I've spoken to about him, it's all of my favourite Liverpool midfielders just blended into one. And I can find attributes from the greatest of Fabinho performances when he's just tangling the ball off people out of nowhere and hooking his leg round. Some of the passing, Xabi Alonso-esque, and then the Thiago shuffles that he does. I find so much pleasure out of watching him play football. And to think of his age, it's terrifying that when you see a player that can do all of those things at 18, you think, what on earth could he? And let's touch wood that he can keep on the straight and narrow and have the desire to want to play for Liverpool. What he can achieve, and you see him now. I think, was that his 6th game or his 5th game in a row starting for Liverpool? You think at his age, we'll get in reinforcements in the summer, I've no doubt of that, but I don't see why he could not be that man at the anchor of that midfield for years to come. And you think the attributes that he has, even as tonight, as I agree with what you said, Pete, about the midfield three, but I did also think, how's this going to work with Bajcetic playing primarily when we've needed him to, when Fabinho's been dropped? He has been back in that CDM role, but now if Fab's there, you'd imagine Fab would be playing in that anchor role. How can he perform on that side of the pitch and do a bit more creatively going forward? And everything he did, he was just a dog, like you say, just like Wijnaldum, took the ball off people. And then he's always looking forward. He's always looking for something positive. So I was so impressed with him. And the sky is the limit with that kid. And I think he's a really, really exciting prospect to have.
If you were...
Obviously, sorry, go on.
Sorry, Tom. Yeah. I was only going to throw in very, very quickly, just because you mentioned about how long he wants to stay at Liverpool. So he just did an interview after the game, because I was watching on TV, and he's 18, Spanish kid. He speaks really good English.
He sounds a bit Scouse, doesn't he? Yeah.
He's been over a while. So I'm hoping that he is really settled. That's just the only thing I wanted to throw in with that.
That is the whole.
Obviously, he's got the culture. Then he's understanding the vibe of the Liverpool team, and as 18-year-old, dare I say, who needs Jude? Is that something that needs to be said?
Shut up.
Obviously, we'll go into the game. We'll go into the game right now. Obviously, Liverpool expected goal 2.99 to the 0.20. You can read the stats there. 59% possession. Basically, Liverpool essentially back to the best. And I'll jump into you, Pete. Throughout the game, is there a generalization point you could make of this game?
It's the first game that certainly in 2023, where Liverpool passed the ball well. And that's the simplest thing. Liverpool have just been playing really, really poor football for such a long. And this is part of that dread. We started with what was the dread of playing Everton was to lose because Liverpool are playing so bad. And this was the first game I kind of went, oh, Robbo's just made a successful pass. So is Bajcetic. So is Joel Matip. And after about 5 or 6 minutes, I'm like, Liverpool are playing quite well. Like, they're not necessarily having lots of shots and creating, but I'm like, they're playing good football.
Yeah.
And so that just lasted. And the best thing about that, it lasted the whole game. Everton were really poor in the second half. They were giving the ball away. They really did not perform particularly well in the second half. But Liverpool were like really on it. And you see Salah and he's got confidence and him actually getting multiple touches of the ball, like probably the most touches out of possession for a long, long time. I would love to know the stats on something like that. Nunez was brilliant. So yeah, Liverpool's overall performance, every single player was at least, apart from Alisson, who didn't really have to do anything, was at least a 7 or better, like really, really faultless. To the point where you kind of look at the Newcastle game and go, do you start Van Dijk? Do you start Jota or Firmino or anyone else? You kind of go, do you just go that same 11 again because they played that well? So that was just so pleasing. That's just, the entire game was a joy to watch because it was just relaxing football. I'm like, oh, there's a good ball, there's a good pass, that's a good tackle. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just good competitive football.
Very, very simple in its approach, and very simple as an answer. It's just, please pass the ball well, please win a game. I'm sure that's the feeling from you.
That's where we were at. that was the lobby.
Welcome to my world, basically. Cal, I'm sure you reiterate with that, and I'll ask upon that question. Cody Gakpo obviously scored his first goal for Liverpool. That's right, isn't it? I think that he looks a different man after that goal as well. He looked like a man unleashed, essentially. What do you make of his performance?
Do you know what? I always try my absolute hardest to, even when a player starts off and obviously he's brand new to the club and he comes from a certain league, he's going to take time. And I think this was the first time in a very long time where I will openly admit to anyone who's listening, I'd watched the first 6 games and thought, I'm really worried. I'm not about his not about how skillful a player or how is what he can do on a football pitch, but can he do it here? And is this the place for him? And I remember the first 6 games, it was a bit of a tough watch, and you've got to give players time. You have, but I did remember seeing it thinking, oh my God, right, let's hope for the best here. And then I watched him tonight. Me and Dom have a group chat, Pete, from university. I put in it, I'm absolutely made up that Cody Gakpo spent 6 games playing like he did to cod the Manx that he's a waste of time, and then played like a 6'4" Lionel Messi for 90 minutes against Everton in the derby. I was so impressed. I was so refreshed by how he played, and there was a few sprinkles of it in the Brighton game in the cup where he was actually getting the ball, beating a man, running forward, having a look for the pass, and you think that's what we need. That's exactly what we want. Maybe, obviously, he's a product of our poor form at the minute. Coming into that team, I don't think there's a player on the planet that could come in and look amazing on them first 6 games. But he showed signs right towards the end of those 6 games. And then tonight, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And I have been a harsh critic of him in his first 6 games, which I hate to be like that about a new signing. But I was finding it really hard to think of where he could excel. And it's all just come out now. I think I read something the other day about he's just moved into a house now. He was living in a hotel for his first 6 games. And just moved into a house with his missus. And you see it tonight. He just seems like a player that gets it, understands. And do you know what it was? It was the confidence. It was the fact that he thought, I can get past him. I'll get past him easy. And then I'll look forward, look for a pass, bang, and we'll go. And then if a ball comes to me, I'll put it in the net. And it was just a really refreshing performance. And it was a sigh of relief. He is really good. And I'm really excited to watch him progress on that performance. Took a bit of time, but 6 games in the grand scheme of things, I'll take that any day. If you talk to me about a new sign, it takes him 6 games to get into it. I'll take that any day. But it was just the way that it was in those 6 games. I was like, come on, mate. Let's see something, please. But yeah, brilliant. Made up with it.
So Pete, who was your man of the match? And do you reiterate what Cal said about Cody Gakpo?
Bajcetic was man of the match, and I don't think he was even close. Honestly, he wasn't close. He was phenomenal. Cody Gakpo, I think everything that Cal just said, I'm like, yeah, those first few games, he struggled. He looked like he was just rushing with his shots, skying them into the rose head and stuff. You kind of go, and I was worried as well because we'd all had that, like, as Liverpool fans, we've gone, United, we've just signed the player that you've been after for ages. We signed him for a snip, like 35 million, I think it was, or something around that. And for a top draw player to come into Liverpool, plays for the Netherlands, like that's a good price. And I was like, oh gosh, you're just going to be So bang average, aren't you?
We were all the same, mate. Don't worry.
I still wonder what his true position is going to be for Liverpool. His best part to play, as you said, was after he scored. But he was coming a little bit deeper. He was almost playing in Bobby's old that false nine kind of position and picking up and rolling people and whatever. And it was at a time when Everton played really poor. Like they were giving the ball away easily. And it's a nice game to come and play well in. But I'm really excited. You know, he's got his first goal now for Liverpool. Really excited to see more from him. If Liverpool have everyone fit, does he start? I still have question marks. That's the only thing I would say. I'm not getting too excited. I just think that's a good performance from him, and we just need consistency now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and we'll get into the future now because obviously, Pete, you mentioned that you play Newcastle next, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but this is the table so far. So you're on 32 points, a game in hand over Newcastle, 2 over Tottenham, which would put you 1 point behind them. It feels like you've a lot worse than that, to be fair. Weirdly, I feel like it's so weird. I feel like you've maybe the last few games you've been pouring, and that sort of, you know, I've felt like it's been almost like a knee-jerk reaction to myself over it. But yeah, I think what would you be after if you win all your games?
Listen, it will always be like this with us, and it was the season after we won the league. We will always have this. I think this season has been slightly worse, and you look at the reinforcements that we have quite obviously needed for a while. But I do always think that we, as a fan base, we go so wild, and it's like, why aren't we absolutely battering everybody anymore? And I understand I'm the exact same. I used to watch us every week, as everybody did, and we used to pretty much pummel everybody that came in front of us with ease, by the odd slip up, and then it comes to seasons like this that have then challenges, and I think this season it is a bit more justified because there's clear problems that even fans can see and Jurgen can see, and the board might not be, you know, quite on side with. But when you look at the table, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever we can't get top 4. And I feel like before today, I and a few people will be like, "There's absolutely no chance we get in top 4." And you look at the recent form. I think that's telling the form. You look at the form. You even look at Arsenal. I don't think anyone's maybe City might. But you look at Newcastle's form, and you look at the teams around them. This is still wide open. And listen, Jurgen Norbert Klopp is our manager, and I will never write him off. So I'll expect nothing but hope for everything. And that's where I think for the rest of the season, I think if we have that mindset now, like we did then 2 years ago, I think that'll see us through. Have the hope, get behind the boys like we did tonight. Crowd was fantastic tonight, which it hasn't been in a while. And, you know, that's admitted by people who sit in there every week. Crowd really got behind the boys tonight. Flags out. Everybody was up for it. And the team produced. So if we can rally again, like we did that season just after we'd won it, then listen, we can do anything. And I have full confidence that we could. Do I think we will? Not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. Seen it before, we could see it again.
And we'll round it up with one last question, Pete. Do you think you'll get top 4?
And we just beat Everton, Pete. Come on, mate.
And if you are, who are you overtaking?
I'm right.
I'm so upset. This is going to be a reality check now, and he's going to back it up as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that I said to I said this today. The trouble Liverpool have got when you look at the table is every weekend you look at it and go, I hope Brentford lose. I hope Fulham lose. I hope. Do you know what I mean? It's not just saying I hope Arsenal or Tottenham or one of the big boys lose. You're hoping that 6 or 7 teams don't win for you to try and get 4th place. Liverpool have got that game in hand. It will come down. That will play a massive part of the belief of the team. Newcastle are not on form right now, and we got them on Saturday. It's potentially a good time for us to play them. Can we get 4th? Yes.
Yes, Peter! Love that.
Yeah. because I think that top three is settled.
That's done, isn't it? Yeah.
That top three is done. I think fourth place wide open. Yeah, I do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Newcastle have drawn 4 in last 5.
With the exception of Newcastle, I think we're the next favourite for fourth place. I think Newcastle has got to be favourites because they're clearly above us. But I'd fancy us over Tottenham or Fulham or any of those teams who are above us at the moment. So yeah, I'm going with yes, fourth.
And I think that's a chat for another day, to be fair. I think that's the chat for maybe next couple of weeks too. Because if you look at it, Tottenham obviously lost Bentancur recently, Brighton. They definitely could, with Mitoma especially. But that is Everton 0, Liverpool 2. And I hope you're all here still right now. We thank you for being involved. Thank you for all the comments. Obviously, Pete, this will be on your channel as well. Let people know where we can catch you, even though this will be on your channel.
So you can catch me on TikTok, on YouTube. Soon I'll be on Instagram. That's news, by the way. And I now have my own Twitter as well. So even that's been all set up too. And lastly, I today have secured a business situation where it means I can finally sell my own merchandise. So I'll have a website.
Right, you make sure you let me know about this merchandise, Pete. I'll be straight on it, mate. We'll be straight on it on this channel. Don't you worry. Pete, thank you so much for coming on again. It's always a pleasure, mate. We appreciate it every time. And we look forward to doing more stuff like this in the future because it's what it's all about, isn't it? This sort of thing. When we're all doing the same thing. And I really appreciate it, mate. Every time that you're on with us. Really appreciate it. So thank you, mate.
No, I really appreciate you guys as well inviting me. So yeah, it's always good fun. We always have a good chat. So yeah, appreciate it. Cheers, Dom. Cheers, Cal. See you soon.
Hope the Reds come on.
And we'll see you all very soon. Please subscribe. Please comment below. Please like. I'm not a
announcement
Red,
this week. Announcement this week. We're going to announce the pod this week. Season 2. We will. I promise. I said we'd do it last week, but we will do it this week. Promise.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we were keeping that quiet till just then as well. But thank you all very much for joining us, and we will see you all very, very soon. Cheers, guys.
See you later.